A lovely good evening. It's a Thursday and we are back on Ubuntu channel with Nsaka, and we are looking forward to having an exciting 1 hour and so minutes discussing a continuation of what we started last week, and we are looking at child abuse. Now, let me remind you, viewers, please share this broadcast, tag someone, invite someone to this broadcast so that we can help each other and learn different issues pertaining to child abuse. It is very easy for you to say it doesn't concern me or I don't care until it happens to your child or someone who is closely related to you. Now, tonight we have a special guest, that is Senior Superintendent Miamui Gloria, who is going to be part of tonight's program from Zambia Police Service, and she is available to give us an insight as regards to child abuse and related issues. Good evening, Madam Gloria Movita.
Good evening, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on Ubuntu channel.
Pleasure is mine too, thank you.
Okay, so just as we are getting started, would like the guests to know who Senior Superintendent Miamui Gloria Movita is and what she does at the Zambia Police Service.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Senior Superintendent Movita. I'm the VSU National Coordinator for the Zambia Police. So basically my role is to coordinate gender-based programs on GBV in the country for the Zambia Police Service. So you can call me a programs officer or coordinator. I oversee all activities relating to GBV in the country in terms of prevention and response.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, viewers, I would like to remind you that we would like to interact with you. Please feel free to make your comment, your submissions, your suggestions. You can drop your comment through the comment section, or there is a WhatsApp line that will be scrolling shortly. And please, you can make use of that. And at some point, we're going to drop the studio link so that you can come into the studio and interact with us. To get the ball rolling, what is child abuse?
Okay, thank you very much. So child abuse is any harm that is occasioned on a person that is defined as a child in our constitution. That's under the laws of Zambia. Under the constitution, the Children's Code Act defines a child as anyone below the age of 18. But of course, we have a penal code that defines as anyone below the age of
18.
Okay.
So, is there a particular unit that looks at children from the Zambia Police Service, or it's generally the Victim Support Unit?
Yeah, so as you may be aware, the VSU was created in 1999 through Zambia Police Amendment Act number 14, protect citizens from various forms of abuse, and that involves everyone who may be a victim of crime, but also over the years, due to overwhelming cases of child abuse, the government of the Republic of Zambia directed that a unit specifically dedicated to children be created. So we have a unit, the Child Protection Unit, that was created in 2006 to complement the efforts of the VSU, which was largely overwhelmed by cases of child abuse in the country. So the units that deal with children in the police, the VSU itself, and the protection unit, so we work side by side.
Okay. So for the child protection unit, is that unit available in all the police stations or posts? How is it? How do the public access the child protection unit?
So the child protection unit is indeed available in police station. So you find it's housed in the same department as the VSU. So usually they sit side by side with the VSU and attend to the matter that may come to their attention.
Okay, all right. Is there a publicly available line for the child protection unit?
Well, in terms of the police service, not as yet. We're still relying on the time, but rest
Okay.
assured, we're doing everything possible to ensure we have a trophy line dedicated to the victims of HIV.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having a bit of technical challenges. I did not get that last bit.
Okay, so we are still talking about lines, isn't it? Like,
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not too sure you can hear me.
Okay, so yes, please.
You can hear me?
Okay, am I audible? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, what I was okay, I did not get the last part of the explanation on the child protection unit.
In terms of availability of toll-free lines dedicated to reporting children's cases. Okay, so I said as a police service, we are actually making a strenuous efforts to have one. We will have one shortly, but this is not the right time to, because we are still putting things together. Yeah. So we currently rely on the general 991. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, in the recent past, even on social media, we've seen a number of videos trending and even cases relating to child abuse. Yeah. So now, what are the common the common types of child abuse that you often come across as the police service and victim support unit?
Okay, so I'll kind of categorize them in terms of the forms. So physical abuse, we do receive cases of assault on children, and then sexually, we have quite a number of defilements and incest. And then when it comes to economic abuse, we have children that suffer economic abuse, that are neglected, that are deprived of their estates when their parents are alive, for example. And those are the most common ones in the categories of.
Okay. Right. So I'm going to ask in terms of general statistics concerning child abuse. I don't know if they've changed, but I was looking at something from 2022, which said about 5,301 children were victims of child abuse. That is from the 22. Is that still the same, or maybe that number has changed?
Yeah, so our compilation depends on, is done quarterly and annually. So the one that just read that annual statistics for 2022. So far, we've only had this for the first and second quarter. So we are yet to compile statistics for the third quarter. So yeah, so the current picture that we have.
Okay, all right, thank you. So now I'm going to see. Okay, we're going to try to look at child sexual abuse in this case. For parents, because the this program is meant for parents to be able to equipped on how to handle some of these things when they find themselves in such incidents, and even help them identify, be on the lookout, what to do as a parent, such kind of things. Now, when it comes to sexual abuse, how would you define this and how would you explain this?
So sexual abuse is just attempt or having kind of knowledge of a child. Or most of the commonest offenses when it comes to children, empowerment itself, incest, and indecent assault. Then we also have sodomy. So when it comes to parents protecting their children from this kind of, the best is actually to ensure, like for the younger children that still need of care from them, they're supposed to desist from leaving them with male relations, because I think we're coming from times when we really trusted family system as a unit. A mother could leave a child with a daughter with a father, leave a girl child with any of the male relations, but that time is long gone. So they should, by all means, try to avoid. Actually, they should by all means, avoid leaving children, especially young children, in the care of the opposite sex, because there's no telling when these people strike, apparently. So you can have a history of saying, the person that I'm going to leave my child with can't do that because they've never done it. And because they're related blood, that's the brother or that's the uncle or that's the father, they can't do it. And then you justify it by saying, I've always left that child and they've never done it. But there's no telling when they strike. Actually, they strike when you least expect it. So that is the number one thing. But also for the children that are able to comprehend and learn and understand one or two things in language that is age appropriate, you actually tell them about the potential abuse in terms of the private part. You tell them that they shouldn't allow anyone to strictly around those parts. If anything does that, then they should be able to quickly report so that at least they can access medical help in case that abuse really occurred, for example, penetration or whatever, or just for them to be sure that the child was not abused. Because sometimes children may not speak in clear terms. And then also to prevent commission of similar crimes, because I think the trend now in the country is that most of the children that are sexual usually confirm that it's not the first time it's happening. So to avoid repeat of these offenses, it's always great to ensure that we tell children that when someone does this to you, the best is to close as soon as possible, and also debunk the issue around the threats, because most of these abusers do threaten them not to reveal, and they work on their minds because they're children, so they know that when they threaten them not to reveal, or when they promise them something better that they may desire as children, then they won't reveal. So all those issues must be discussed for children.
Okay, okay, I'm going to take you back a little bit. So you've mentioned incest, okay? And from explanation, it's like most of the people, most of the children that are victims are mostly girls, female. Am I correct? In terms of the
Yes,
majority of cases?
statistically
Okay,
correct.
okay, okay. So if in I'm going to get into vernacular mind. Mukakamba incest, you mean a situation where a tate agona na mwana wake? Am I correct? Okay.
Yes.
And my cases, how much taker you usually receive my cases here? So
Yes, they're very common these days, actually.
okay, and this is where you advise that vana vakazi not vazisiwa with vamuna, not to leave female children, girls, with whether it's a relative, as long as they're opposite sex, to be very careful when they are left alone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
Okay. For a parent, what are the things that they can look out for? If say that can help them know, okay, Wimwana is going and is going through sexual abuse, even that they need to look out for.
Okay, so for children, depending on the age, the younger, the easier to tell. When you bath them, when you are bathing them, for example, they're very small, you realize that they might be showing signs of pain around their private part. Then, if they were injured, for example, if the penetration was left injuries, especially in very young children, just some cases they'll be, and then sometimes if that passes without the parents speaking, whatever reason, maybe they may not have been around for a long time, that those things are healed. They may contract some STIs and they'll be able to see, and then when they take them to the hospital, that actually that's an STI. And where else can a child get an STI? Those are sexually transmitted diseases. Sometimes they'll show pain when urinating. They may not be able to walk properly. They may also be withdrawn. We have a case in Jakarta where a child actually was not even motivated to go to, when asked why he was hanging around, told the person inquiring to say, my dad abuses me all the time when I goes for work, because the mother that time was a maid and the father was a security guard. And these people have very good working times, because when the other one is working, one should be able to take care of the child. But it's during that same time when the mother was away for work that the father used to abuse the child. That the child was drawn, and then even the walking, you could see that the police station. So I don't know, things that the parents can tell. But then when you go to the classroom, well, teachers also may notice a child that was active is becoming inactive, less engaged, comments is going down, always looking thoughtful, attentive, lost. All those teachers who know their children, who are trained, who will be able to inquire more around what really is causing that. Then that is how children disclose.
All right. Okay, I'm having a bit of technical challenges. So what we're going to do, we're going to go on a short break so that we can try to resolve this, and then we'll be back shortly after this break.
Okay.
Globally, 85% of infertility is because of infections, typically the chlamydia and the gonorrhea.
Your time is up. Thank you so much.
Okay. Since I've been mentioned, I can react to what comment Chinda just
yes, I haven't finished my point.
Remember,
no, let me finish my point so that my brother can.
Does the Patriotic Front know the kind of damage they have done to our economy and to our country. I do not.
The alleged abduction of Pamela Chisupa, and this case has really kept us on our toes. And as much as
nobody has been acquitted from this new dawn administration cases that have been started. There's nobody that has been acquitted. Okay.
CJ, foreplay. I'm not talking about jump and begin acting like a kangaroo. No, foreplay. Many of us as Africans, we lack this virtue. This is not there.
Yeah, the time twaje ku Malabo was the first game twale tena wa Senegal. I think very tutasana underrated because even the warm up, you can see the way they are doing warm up. Bale munakati bona na bawina kale nyo.
It's actually good if you start creating competition in the team. If you don't create competition, then you will have a problem. Who to replace when one is injured?
The names people have been calling me, I accepted them and I will stand them. But what I would prefer being called as a nickname, I would prefer being called Sambalung.
From it, we can't make the Bible fit us and have things that make Esther feel good, and things that Esther doesn't really feel good about, she'll edit out.
Trying to represent Zambia from a different side of things. We just don't want to be regular, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to package ourselves to Africa and the world.
Apologies for that technical challenge that we're having over there. Viewers, let me remind you, this is Nsaka on Ubuntu channel, and tonight we are looking at child abuse, and I am joined by Senior Superintendent Nyamui Gloria to help us with tonight's discussion. So, Madam Mugita.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we continue on sexual abuse. Okay. I'm getting the feedback. Okay, am I audible now? Okay. All right, viewers. While we are waiting for that to be resolved, we are looking at child abuse tonight. We started this topic last week with Evangelist Shaabula, and tonight we have Senior Superintendent Muvita, who's going to give us the perspective of the Zambia Police Service as regards to child abuse issues, and we'll be looking at the whole issues concerning with how to report, what to expect, and how to engage the police when it comes to child abuse issues. We will be sharing the link shortly so that you're able to interact with us in the studio. Please feel free to drop a comment through the comment section, and we'll be able to read it out as well as be able to give a response to it if it requires a response. Madam Muvita, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So, before we went on the break, we were looking at sexual abuse, and you were giving examples and hints what parents should look out for in order to be able to identify that a child is being sexually abused. Now, from the victim support unit, at what point should a parent report their suspicion or the incidents of sexual abuse? And as they are coming to the police, what is your expectation? What do you expect from the parents?
Okay. So as soon as they suspect sexual abuse, they should not hesitate. They should be able to go the police report. And so what the police will do, can you hear me? So the police will immediately issue a medical report so that the child is examined, treated. If there's need for them to be treated, if anything is found. But if anything is everything is okay, the medical practitioners will be able to state as such. But overall, once the medical report goes back to the police station, and then the evidence is assessed, and then it's confirmed that indeed for the sexual abuse took place. In this case, we're talking about medical related sexual abuse where you need medical evidence. Then they can now go on to process the case, open a docket of case, collect more evidence, finish up and take it to National Prosecutions Authority for prosecution. But then we also have cases where you may not need medical evidence. So, for example, but just so as to ensure the child is okay, medical exams will still be done, medical report will still be issued. But then when you interview the child and then they're able to show that the person in question just indecently assaulted them, then we proceed as such. We record statements, open docket of case, and then also after our investigations, we forward the docket to the National Prosecutions Authority for prosecution as well.
Sorry, I'll interrupt you. When you say indecent assault, mutant indecent assault.
Indecent assault is anything, any act or omission that may not amount to a sodomy, defilement, or incest. For example, touching a child inappropriately, you touch the child's private parts, you fondle their private parts, or you use the private organ to fondle the child with stuff like that. That is a decent assault. So that may not necessarily need medical evidence. All it needs is just corroboration. As long as what the child is saying, um, after interrogations, after interviews, proves that actually the child was in fact sexually assaulted. So that is the charge that will be given to the suspect.
Okay, so the other question that I would ask, because would like people to have a practical knowledge what to expect and exactly what to do. So there are cases in terms of for the child, the safety of the child. You find that some of these cases, people are scared of bringing them to the police or reporting to victims court. What is the best way in which they can raise alarm or engage VSU units in such cases without endangering the safety of the child, yeah, or the family?
Yeah, so when it comes to ensuring they access help from the police in this regard, there's no two ways about it. They have to go and report that matter to the police station. The VSU provides a friendly environment where services can be accessed from. So all they need to do is just go report, take the child there, report, and then the police will advise on the next steps, including obviously having the child examined to ascertain whether or not the child was actually abused and to what extent. So when it comes to safety, really, the safety of a child should be guaranteed when they access services from the police station, because failure to do so may expose the child to more vulnerabilities at home. So those steps must be taken. Otherwise, the people will continuously abuse these children. So yeah, the police has to be informed, notified, reported to, so that they can take action.
Yeah, most times you find even these cases they are reported, but again they are withdrawn. And then I would like to know, is there a provision where if such an incident is reported, there is no withdrawing, and under what circumstances do you allow these cases to be withdrawn?
Okay, so when you look at the Anti-GBV Act of 2011, it provides that grave omissions or acts of violence against children should not be withdrawn. In fact, victims of GBV, that's what it says, should not be withdrawn. So at the police station, when it comes to sexual abuse, for example, the fact that a child is a child already, that is grave enough for that offense not to be withdrawn pertaining to children. Generally, when it comes to victims other than children, that is where it's more flexible in terms of minor. There's certain offenses that are very minor that we are allowed, we have discretion to withdraw. Even the court itself does withdraw cases that are minor. But when it comes to children, really, all cases actually are grave when it comes to sexual abuse, for example, because of the extent of vulnerability of children in this regard. However, the problem is that usually it's the parents themselves that begin to negotiate, settlements out of the police settlements. So and even where the police insist that that case should not be thrown, for example, they actually take further steps to ensure that the case does not reach court by, for example, taking out the child, especially if the child has not been secured by social welfare, for example. They'll take the child out of that place so that the case eventually gets confused. But what we are trying to do now is really we're trying to ensure that we do not withdraw cases involving children, because the fact that they are children means that the cases are grave enough. So that's what we're trying to discourage at police stations.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We are joined by Himba. Let me just allow Himba to come in and make her. Himba, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, CJ, and good evening, Superintendent Movita.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's nice to have you on the program. Good evening, viewers. And good evening, CJ.
Evening, Himba. Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, CJ. Superintendent, when a case is reported, especially that involves juveniles, what is the procedure and what services do you offer at Victim Support Unit?
Okay, so when a case is reported involving a minor, for example, we ensure that the child, through issuance of a medical report, accesses free medical services in terms of examination, and if they find an infection thereof, treatment as well. Then also we facilitate the child accessing shelter outside the abusive home, because we know that if the child continues staying in that home, they will compromise the child's testimony. They do take out children and move them out of the places where they can easily be accessible by the police and social welfare, as well as health practitioners, just to compromise the case. So to the parents of the child as well, and depending on the age of the child, we also provide counseling to the victim, especially if they are older children, to be able to know that in as much as they have been abused or traumatized, they can still, you reassure them that they can still be okay. We also counsel family and stand with the family as well and support them throughout the process, because as you know that the court proceedings are very tedious and very lengthy. So the victim support stands in to ensure that they're supported throughout the process in terms of accessing services within the organization and outside as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Superintendent. I also would like to find out if you've got other organizations you work with, despite the social welfare, which are from the private sector, as well as do you have other programs you have for children who are survivors of sexual or any kind of abuse? Are there any other programs you have for them as you integrate them back to society?
Okay, so in terms of collaboration, we collaborate with a lot of stakeholders, both governmental and non-governmental. As you know, we are first responders and the first point in terms of accessing justice. So you can imagine how sought after our partnership is from stakeholders, both locally and abroad. And then when it comes to maybe just to mention some of them, there are just way too many. The United Nations organizations, UNICEF leads in this regard, and several other UN agencies. Then we have local NGOs, the WILDAF, VILSA, the CCP, and there are too many actually to mention. So we enjoy overwhelming support and collaboration from within and abroad, including yourself, Himba. I believe that your broadcast is being done.
Thank you.
And so we are very grateful. So when it comes to programs really for the abused children, our mandate as Zambia Police really has a boundary limitation, but we have stakeholders outside the system, including the Ministry of Community Development and Social Welfare, that are able to provide further support and integration for the victims. And then we also have, for example, organizations like Faweza that would come on, depending on the age of the child. If they are school going, they could extend their hand in terms of supporting them to further their education. And then we also have NGOs like the CCP for the boys. For example, they have programs for the boys that they call coaching boys into men. You know, sometimes in terms of football and the like, just to keep them busy and happy.
Thank you so much. What about in a situation where there's evidence of abuse on a child, and then the family is trying to hide it, or maybe the red flag has been raised by the community or the neighbors, but the family are trying to hide that act? How do you handle it as the victim support unit?
Okay. Fortunately, we have very good working relationships with the community when it comes to matters relating to children. So, like you said, when they're trying to hide, it means that somebody else knows. And it is the same people who know, the neighbors, for example, the teachers who a child may have disclosed to, and including some other members of the family who may not agree with the prevailing situation to not go ahead and report the case. So, provided we receive such information, we do follow up and ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book.
Okay, thank you so much, Omubita. CJ, over to you.
Thank you very much, Himba. We are joined by Mr. Mkedebai. Mkedebai, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, CJ. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much. Kumanziwan, what is the
Enchak Manziwan Chang.
For Himba Mukan.
Kimaziban.
And you call yourself a Zambian.
Yeah,
I've just done it.
We have Madam Gloria in the studio from Victim Support, Zambia Police Service. Please, your comment, contribution, or question in line with today's program.
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, we just want to thank you for Okezeli Invita for having had time to come and educate us on the issues to do with child abuse, or with what the victim support are doing in mitigating such kind of cases. I think we've heard a lot that has been said, and the good thing is we are backed up by the law. And the other thing is we have some conflicts. The current law that we have, and the customary laws that we have, or traditions that are in conflict with issues to do bordering on child abuses. There are situations where families, as alluded to earlier, that they intervene and they would rather resolve matters exterior, rather outside court settlement, withdrawing cases. Can the police compel the victim or the family to the victim to proceed with the matter to court?
Okay.
Do you have any power when somebody comes and says, since I'm the guardian of this infant that has been abused, and we have discussed matters with the fought with the perpetrators and we have come to a reasonable settlement. Do you, the police, have the power to compel or to take the matter privately without a complainant? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So when it comes to withdrawals, especially relating to children, the victim is a child. So when a parent wants to withdraw a matter involving a child, really, I think what guides us also is best interest of the child. So yes, we do proceed up to court in those cases. The challenges may be in court where probably they'll try to sabotage the testimony of the children and just compromise the evidence being submitted because they tend to become hostile on behalf of their children. But really, yes, we do proceed in some cases because you see, when it comes to issues affecting children, I think it's about really the seriousness that we attach to the children. And that is one thing we really are working towards trying to minimize because children are very vulnerable. It's unlike adults who are able to make decisions. Children can't make decisions. So it's us, the police, who should stand firm and make decisions in the best interest of the children. So yes, we do proceed to court.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to follow up on
Yes,
that one. What happened to the parental rights? Do they cease, or do you get an order to relinquish the parental rights over, or the guardianship over the victim?
We don't relinquish any parental responsibility because, in fact, parental responsibility must be seen to prevail in a matter involving a child. So what we simply do is just to go with what the law provides. A crime has been committed, and we proceed to court. What happens in court in terms of really the trial and evidence being submitted really is now should be then under the hands of the court. But we don't relinquish any parental responsibility. A crime is a crime. So children need to be protected. If the parents can't protect them, then we as a state should proceed to ensure they access justice. They still remain their guardians.
Maybe the final question. Sorry, CJ, the final question, my sister. What are the most prevalent cases that you in a victim support countrywide, especially pertaining to the subject matter? What are the most prevalent cases that you have successfully, or what's the statistics? What are the statistics of cases that you have successfully prosecuted and seen to it that the victims, the perpetrators are behind bars?
Okay, so thank you very much. In terms of prosecution rates, I'll not be able to tell. That should be very clearly answered by the National Prosecutions Authority. But just generally, we do prosecute cases. I think you're able to tell even from the few that make their way into the media that from time to time you see convictions being posted on Facebook, but that's just a tip of the iceberg. So we do secure convictions in that regard in cases affecting children.
Thank you very much. So, just riding on what Obom Kilabari had asked, in the community, so it's possible when, let me say, a neighbor sees something wrong happening in a house, they are able to come and report, and police are able to go to that place, apprehend the people that are abusing children, and even take it further. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, and that's the best practice. In the modern world of policing, we are promoting community policing, and that is what we call community policing, working together with members of the community to resolve problems. So just for your own information, just the other week, I received a call pertaining to abuse of a child, incest. of a 14-year-old who was impregnated by the father just in Guerrero there. So that call came from a member of the public, and we followed up, and as we speak, the father is in detention and the child is at a shelter.
Wow, great. So, viewers, you hear, in case you see something wrong happening in your neighborhood, Osayopa, police are there to protect, they are there to help. So go ahead, report so that children are able to be helped and kept safe. Now, Superintendent, there are complaints that come in terms of the perpetrators being released and on bond. Isn't it possible to keep them in police custody until everything is disposed of? Because wantu amadandaula kuti no uyu muntu ationongera mwana but futi police vamsiya and they're seeing them move around. What is your position, and can you clarify on some of these complaints that we get in the community?
Okay, so yes, we have a victim on one hand who also has rights and they're being abused, but we also have a suspect on the other hand who also has rights. So bond is a right, except where the law specifies that you may not give bond, that is where we may not give bond, and except where the suspect in question is probably of no fixed abode, that is when we may not release them on bond. But in such cases, the best would be really to convey them to the remand prison, because as you know, the same suspects are supposed to just be in our custody for a few hours. So we also have a duty to ensure that we abide by what the law says in terms of custody of suspects in our police stations. So yes, we do give bond, but I think the biggest problem sometimes is that the members of the public don't understand our procedures. The moment they see somebody out of police custody, they think the case is over. So probably the idea is just around strengthening communication around the next step, just explaining the whole process to the victim's family.
Okay. So one other aspect that I'd like to bring in terms of discipline. Okay. In our culture, if it is what discipline mwana ngatsamvera nikumenya nikukwapula, from the perspective of victim support, how do you categorize abuse, and in terms of kumenya kwanetimamenya vana, at what point does it become abuse, and at what point does victim support come in?
Okay, so I think as parents, really, we know to what extent we should discipline our children, and we also know that when we overdo it, it results in injury or just harm. You may not see physical injury, but then you'd have caused harm to a child. So it's within those limits that parents should be able to actually just not go beyond the limit. It's difficult to draw a line, but I think as parents we know that we cannot cross this boundary. So the moment you cross a boundary and there's injury and there are complaints and stuff like that, then we're supposed to move in, because even if a child is beaten by the parent, a teacher discovers those beatings. This is what happened a few weeks ago. Social media was awash with that story of a little boy. It shouldn't get to that. It shouldn't get to that. So we may not say, don't go over this, because really there's no line. But I think as human beings, we should be able to tell that we can only go this far. After all, we're just disciplining. Disciplining is not causing harm or injury to a child, no. It should not get to that.
Okay. So the other question that I have, in terms of sexual abuse or sexual cases involving minors, like in the compounds, it's quite common whereby teens are impregnating each other. How do you handle such cases? Do they also fall under abuse? And how does victim support handle such issues?
Okay, so we have a new law, the Children's Code Act, which was enacted last year in August. So that law stipulates what should be done when minors impregnate each other. So what it promotes is diverting a child, meaning channeling a child away from the court. So when such a thing happens to children, of course, the matter will be reported to the police. That is from age 12 up to 18. The matter will be reported to the police, and the VSU will assess the case, interview the child. But one of the things that will qualify a child to be diverted is the fact that they should be able to admit the offense. So once they admit the offense, and together with other factors that should be assessed, then a child will be diverted simply by choosing from a number of options, diversion options, including a formal reprimand by a law enforcement officer, an informal reprimand by a law enforcement officer, or it could get into counseling and stuff like that. And the idea is to ensure that a child is not introduced to the criminal justice system and looked at as a criminal at an early age, but should be given a chance to grow up and contribute to society. Because obviously the law understands that some offenses are committed because children are just children. So that is what the law has come with. And I hope that people will not complain against it and say that we are letting go of children, but that is exactly how it is. So when that law was enacted last year in August, the children that were in custody actually, in fact, when it was enacted, that time children aged 8 were criminally liable. But the moment the law came into force last year in August, all the children below the age of 12, regardless of what offenses they had committed, were released. But in this regard, I'm talking about children who are criminally responsible from the age of 12 to 18. So typically the system, the law wants them not to reach court. They'll only reach court if they fail to comply with the diversion option. If they are given, if the option is, for example, to cancel them for a period of over a period of time, and they fail to comply, and after making inquiries into why they failed to comply, it's just because probably they didn't commit themselves to comply to that diversion option, then they may appear in court. They may be subjected to appear in court. But however, if failure to comply to a diversion option is caused by probably factors beyond their control, or probably the parents not being supportive, then they'll be given a chance and given the same kind of diversion, probably counseling, to undergo counseling in this case. So that is what the law provides when it comes to children who, for example, commit defilement as children.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll request you to clarify so that we should explain when you say formal, is it formal reprimand or informal reprimand? What does that mean and what does that involve?
So we are talking about generally children and them committing offenses, for example, because you spoke about compounds, teens doing ABCD. So depending on the nature of the offense and after assessment, those that qualify for just kumukalipira chabe, like mwana, you kind of just kalipira the child, you know what I mean? Usaka bwezepo and stuff like that. You get them through the idea that what they did was not correct, was not good, and the next time they do it, they actually may not go off that easily. That is an uninformal reprimand. So uninformal reprimand would not demand any record that a police station. So the child will just be reprimanded and no end will be made then one as I ender. And then a formal reprimand will be entered, you know, will be entered in the occurrence book or in the register. They call them registers in the new law, and then will be available at the police station for 5 years. Then after 5 years, they will be expunged from the police station, meaning they'll be destroyed. The records will be destroyed. So that's what I mean. Then in some cases, the other options could be counseling or family group conferencing, even mediation. You know, in some cases they just simply need mediation between the parents of the other child and the family of the other child. So you mediate over it, resolve the issue, and let them go.
So that is kubankazika no kambisana.
Mediation, yeah.
Okay, great. In terms of early marriages, I would like you to touch on that one as well.
Mhm. Okay, so for child marriages have always been an offense. Even before this new law was enacted, we have the Education Act, which criminalized marrying off Elena or marrying Elena. But however, that law was kind of selective. Of course, it being the Education Act, it only protected children um, below the age of 16 to start with, and also children who were in school. So for a child to be deemed to have been married off and for an offense to have been established, the child should have been below the age of 16 and should have been a learner. That is the Education Act of 2011. But the Children's Court Act of 2022 has really made things easy, because now it just explicitly states that child marriage is an offense, meaning that it does protect children who are both in school or out of school. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to bring in Tom Keller, if you have any questions or clarifications, or maybe an addition to that.
Thank you so much. I think Ritumezi Kezeli, you have really uh, explained everything. I think those who have not heard, they could replay this program again. The other issue I wanted to find out was how well are you as victim support countrywide taken good care of by the current government? Are you being supported in terms of funds? You know, what challenges are you facing, especially reaching the remotest areas when crime, domestic violences, or cases that borders under your jurisdictions, especially in family-related matters? How well equipped are you to handle these matters promptly?
Okay, so government always strives to support its government departments, because that is the only way they can ensure development. They do it directly or through partnerships with, for example, we have funding from the United Nations, the JRZ program on GBV that really comes through to support us. So we make do with what we have, and we know that in areas which are remote, we also have government departments. In an event where we may not have transport, for example, we have offices of the district education board secretaries and other government departments, and also NGOs that operate within those areas. So where we may not have transport for one reason or the other government departments do move in to ensure that they assist in terms of transport provision.
So in short, you are well looked after.
Well, maybe that may not be a question that I would really want to talk about. We do our job to the best of our abilities, and we know that for us to be able to exist as a government department, we know that government is always supporting us.
Well,
What my concern was if you are well funded, because these are very serious programs, and especially when you are talking about children that are subjected to so much untold sufferings and subjected to abuse, where you, the police, through your department, if you are well funded, you may even have a home shelter for kids that are abused, where you, or rather you have this foster program where you work hand in hand with the social welfare. I don't know. That was the reason why I was asking such question relating to if you are well taken care of, because your department demands also a huge you have a huge responsibility on your in your department.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mama Kedebai.
Okay, just to say that when it comes to GBV, for example, it's not a one-man show. Everyone puts in what they have for us to be able to achieve our goals. So we follow a multi-dimensional approach. For example, when you talk about shelters, it's not even our mandate to have shelters, for example. Shelters are the responsibility of social welfare. So that question may well go. When it comes to GBV, really, and looking at the nature of the cases themselves, we work as a team. Everyone puts in what they have. Governments puts in what they have. NGOs put in what they have, and other agencies. So that is how we proceed.
Well, thank you very much. We are going into the dying minutes of our program. The questions that I'll ask is in terms of victim support unit. What are the common problems that you encounter from let me say whether it's parents or guardians bringing these cases to the police? What are some of the challenges that you have, and what would you like tell or encourage people that are found in such cases to be aware of, so that it does not complicate these cases as they bring them to you?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is the fact that they're committed within domestic relationships. And obviously, they have interest in the abused child as much as they have interest in the abuser, because they are related by blood. Even in some cases where they are neighbors, for example, that's to extent. So the challenges would be hesitancy, obviously reluctance to report because they're coming from the same family. So, yeah.
Then, in terms of prevention tips, what prevention tips would you give to parent and guardian?
Okay, so like I already mentioned, for children that are young, it's always best to ensure that they are left with somebody who may not abuse them. It's a bit difficult when it comes to sexual abuse, for example. But then I think parents should have a very keen eye on who they leave their children with in that regard, because like I said earlier, it's very difficult to tell who is going to do what to your child within the same homestead. The people that we used to trust to be able to take care of children, the fathers, the brothers, they're abusing the children. In some cases, we also have women who abuse boys. So it's really around just a stricter eye on who the child remains with in a home, for example. And also just provide the children who are able to grasp something that they are depending on their age, to be able to explain really what to disclose at the earliest convenience, and not to allow, for example, people of the opposite sex to play around with them, touch them, inappropriately. At least those small tips really have shown to help in many cases. So speaking to the children themselves around really what is happening, what happened, how they are, how they were, who they were with, talking to them and breaking the culture of silence really helps a great deal in mitigating some of these challenges when it comes to prevention.
Superintendent, in a situation where a child
Sorry.
has also consented, especially when we are talking about early marriages, where the child has really consented this and they also want to get married, how do you handle such a situation as victim support?
Okay, so they are children, so children are not able to make decisions. So the guide is that that marriage should be dissolved because there should not be any marriage in the first instance because they are children. It also extends to sexual abuse, even where a child has consented. For example, a child who's 15 or 14 has consented. That consent becomes material. So even when it comes to child marriages, in terms of children, consent is immaterial. The only thing is that for the older, younger girls, the older ones, they tend to be very difficult because they really want that. But it's the duty of parents to be able to guide them to ensure they make the right decisions, go to school, and then they may be married later at the right age.
May I also ask one last question?
Okay, Mom, can I please go ahead?
Okay, Zeri, I wanted to find out what are the most prevalent cases that you are dealing with, that you are so overwhelmed with at victim support these days or this year or something like that?
Well, the most prevalent cases are defilements. Those are cases of, they remain cases of interest that they've been for a long time. Also, we have assaults on children as well, including neglecting to provide for children, as well as depriving children of their benefits.
On that one that you just mentioned, the last number 2, neglect of children, do you apprehend? Sorry, I had promised to ask one question in the last 5.
And stick to one, sir.
Yeah, but
stick to one.
Yeah. Anyway, let me stick to one. Sorry about that, but
CJ, over to you.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you
you
very
knew what
much.
I was trying to ask you on the issue of child neglect.
Okay, there's something on this book where one is asking, one Enoch is asking, does ZP or disciplinary if problematic? Okay. Okay, let me just maybe trying to ngati mwana avuta pa nyumba. Is Zambia Police Service able to help with disciplining a child?
Well, we are mandated to provide counseling to offenders. So in that regard, we may offer counseling to a child, and that's a discipline that we can give as far as the police is concerned.
Okay. Could you make a minimum force for Superintendent, you make a minimum force.
No, the law is very clear when it comes to dealing with child offenders. It's all about really what I was trying to explain. So if a child has committed an offense, there are procedures. If they are criminally liable, there are procedures. We assess the cases, and now the law promotes diversion as a matter of first resort and detention last resort. So I was outlining all those options. Those are the options that the child should go through. Yeah. So if a child has committed an offense, that is the way we go. We don't divert from what the law says.
Okay, thank you so much. CJ, as I leave the platform, I'd want to ask one question. And this is, I'd love Womurita to mention in cases, which cases do they offer bond? I mean, I remember you asked, it's just a follow-up I thought I could ask, where you talked about the issues of abuse and where community always complain. So which scenarios of abuse where you'd offer a police bond?
In the matter in question, we give bond, or because those are not capital offenses. Bond is restricted when they're capital offenses. So when a child is murdered, for example, yes, so we move into now restricting giving bond. But other matters that relate to what we are discussing other than capital offenses, a bond is available.
Okay. Thank you so much, CJ.
Thank you very much, Himba. Thank you, Bomkelewai. Yes, Superintendent Muvita, please give us your concluding remarks before we end the program.
Okay, so thank you very much. Mine is just to urge parents out there to really tighten the security around their children, because they're the primary caregivers. So I hope that the discussion may have helped unite one or two people around really ensuring that the children are well protected when their rights are they are reported to relevant authorities so that action is taken and they access their justice, and just also as to prevent would be others.
Thank you very much. 1 hour, 18 minutes. We had a few technical glitches here and there. Our phone lines didn't seem to work, but want to thank you for being part of the program. Thank you very much, Madam Muvita, for accepting our invitation. We'll definitely again so that you can get us more on issues relating to victim support and social life around our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and bye.
Okay, thank you. Kileba, thank you. Himba, thank you. Viewers, do make viewers to follow on our media platform on Facebook. It's Ubuntu channel here, on our Ubuntu channel, YouTube Ubuntu channel, and please do subscribe to Ubuntu channel, because every day at 20 hours we do have a program coming your way. For example, tomorrow we'll be having a sports program at 20 hours. Saturday we have review, and there will be a special review coming through. On Sunday we have Gospel Zone. Monday we have Live Out. Tuesday we have Let's Talk Politics, and Wednesday we have Meet Your Leader, and a Thursday like this we have Pansaka. So do stay tuned and make it with us so that you don't miss next week's episode of Pansaka right there on Ubuntu channel. From me and everyone part of this broadcast, we want to say thank you and God bless.